Every generation needs someone who isn't afraid to go against the status quo. And today we're going to talk about a man that, despite his comfortable upbringing and education, believed that society had become dumb, weak, and easily controllable. And to combat this dumbing down of society, he would give up all worldly possessions, adopted a life of poverty, and he would set his sights on the intellectuals of his day in order to promote and spread his beliefs. Not Kaczynski. We're not talking about Kaczynski, at least not today. Today's man of the hour is one of the most hated yet respected philosophers of antiquity. The philosopher that ran around naked, lived in a barrel, harassed Plato, and had some of the greatest one-liners of all time. The father of cynicism, Diogenes of Sinope. And if you like stories of reasonable men doing unreasonable things, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and as always, thank you for watching. While we don't know a lot about the early life of Diogenes, we do know that he was born around 400 BC in Sinope. We know that he was well educated, and his father was in charge of banking and minting coins in the city. Until one day they were involved in a scandal with the defacing of currency, which led to them either being banished or having to flee the city for their own safety. And this is where we get one of Diogenes' first one-liners. He was approached by an individual who asked him if he was Diogenes who had been condemned to banishment from Sinope. Diogenes responded yes, and that he had condemned the entire town of Sinope to staying where they were. And these one-liners just keep getting better and better. Diogenes would eventually move to Athens and study under one of the students of Socrates. This is when Diogenes adopted a lifestyle of just the bare necessities. He owned a single cloak, a cup, and lived in a giant barrel. And while in Athens, he would start challenging the social norms of the day. He would walk around barefoot, he would eat food out of the trash, and he would use the bathroom in public. Sometimes on people that he disagreed with. There's a story that once Diogenes was invited to a party where the host requested that he stop spitting on the floor. To which Diogenes proclaimed, in a rich man's house, there's nowhere to spit but his face. Any human urge that he had, he would deal with no respect to decency or place. Once, when questioned about why he felt the need to exercise his demons in public, Diogenes said, "I only wish I could get rid of my hunger as simply as rubbing my stomach." I love this guy so much. One story tells about a time when Diogenes was captured by pirates and sold into slavery. When he got to the slave market, they were going down through asking the slaves what they did for work. When they got to Diogenes and asked him what jobs he could do, he simply responded, "Be a master of men." To which he was severely beaten until someone just kind of bought him out of sympathy. But when they found out that he could read and write, they put him in charge of tutoring their son. Most depictions of Diogenes that you'll see show him either holding a lamp or a cup. The lamp because Diogenes would often walk around the market in broad daylight with a lantern proclaiming that he was looking for an honest man. And a cup because besides his cloak, that was his one worldly possession. He drank out of it, he ate out of it, until one day he was walking through the market and he saw a small homeless boy walk over to a puddle of water and use his hands to, collect water and drink out of his hand. And when Diogenes saw this, he just took his cup and just flung it. He was like, well, guess I don't need that anymore. Diogenes believed in making do with as little as possible. One day, he was eating a meal of bread and lentils. There was this other philosopher who had become buddy-buddy with some of the elites of the town that told Diogenes that if he learned to suck up to the elites and royalty of the city, he wouldn't have to eat lentils. To which Diogenes told him that if this philosopher would be content with lentils, he wouldn't have to suck up to the elites of the city, which like just one burn after another. This guy was awesome. And Diogenes became infamous for walking into the lecture halls of other philosophers and either eating loudly or causing distractions. One day while listening to Plato lecture, Plato said that a man was simply a featherless biped, to which Diogenes went to the market, bought a chicken, ripped all the feathers out of it, walked back into the lecture hall, threw it on the floor, and said, "Behold, I bring you a man." A story goes that when Diogenes was living in Corinth, it was put under siege by Philip of Macedon. Everyone in the city, both civilian and soldier alike, were running around trying to fortify the city, trying to prepare for this attack by Philip. And in all this chaos, Diogenes started rolling his barrel that he lived in around the city and up this very large hill. This quickly attracted the attention of soldier and civilian alike, who wanted to know what this old man was up to pushing this barrel around the city, to which Diogenes told them, "Well, I saw y'all running around, like chickens with your heads cut off. I thought I should do something just as beneficial." Even when facing a possible military invasion, Diogenes found time to troll people. The most infamous story of Diogenes is his encounter with Alexander the Great. Now, historians debate over whether or not this encounter ever happened, but it's too good not to include in this video. One day Alexander came to Corinth, and all of the intellectuals, the businessmen, and the politician of the city came to see him. Now, Alexander, a student of philosophy, had heard about Diogenes because most of the philosophers during this time period had had encounters with him, and while he might have been annoying and weird, they all respected him. So whenever he didn't show up to meet Alexander made time to go find him. And there Diogenes was, laying outside of his barrel, tanning in the sun, just everything hanging out, and Alexander walks up and is like, "Oh, you must be Diogenes." And he told Diogenes who he was and told him that if there was anything he could get for him, he would. To which Diogenes said, "You're blocking the sun. Move." And some of the other military officials with Alexander were like, "Dude, we can execute this guy and no one will care. Like, no one should talk to a great general that way." To which Alexander, to try and calm it down, was like, No. If I wasn't Alexander the Great, I think I would quite like to be like Diogenes here. To which Diogenes responded, "If I wasn't Diogenes, nope, I would still want to be me." Absolute legend. Despite being a pain and going out of his way to harass people, Diogenes was genuinely loved. When a young boy broke his barrel on accident, the city bought him a new one. And despite having to beg for food most of the time, he lived well into his 70s. Towards the end of his life, people started asking him, "Diogenes, what do you want us to do with your body when you finally pass away?" To which Diogenes told them, "Just throw me over the city wall." And shocked by this, people were like, "Diogenes, that you'll be eaten by wolves and vultures. Like, are you sure you want that?" To which Diogenes told them, "Okay, fine. Throw me over the wall and then throw a stick so that I can use it to beat off the wolves and vultures." And the people are like, "Diogenes, you'll be dead. You won't be able to use the stick." To which he responded, "Then I won't care if I'm eaten by wolves and vultures." It's believed that Diogenes passed away at some point between 325 and 320 BC. And Diogenes 100% believed and lived what he taught. Simple living, self-reliance, and that people who thought they were better than the average man should be knocked down a peg or two from time to time. Also, I personally think he would have loved George Carlin. Even today, if you work a 9 to 5 and pay taxes and hate your boss and hate politicians, it's hard to read about Diogenes and not go, "Yeah, I kind of get it." You might not like what Diogenes did. You might not like how he went about it, but sometimes reasonable men have to do unreasonable things. And the fact that we're still talking about Diogenes 2,300 years after he passed away proves he did some things right. But let me know what you think about Diogenes down in the comments. What weird historical figure should I talk about next? And as always, if you've made it this long, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. But until next time, don't forget to stay wild, stay wonderful, and I'll talk to you later.